Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something I think pretty much everyone bumps up against sometimes.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
That moment,
Yeah.
in a conversation when everything just grinds to a halt.
Ah, the awkward silence. Yes, that feeling like you've hit a wall.
Totally. Especially maybe when you're trying to communicate in English.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, poof, mind's blank.
Or you just, don't quite know how to respond in a way that feels natural. It gets uncomfortable, doesn't it, for everyone involved?
It really does. 1 minute, things are flowing okay. The next, you're just kind of standing there thinking, right, what now?
Or worse, wondering, did I mess up? Was my English weird?
Yeah.
It can really dent your confidence.
Definitely, but it's such a common thing,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we found in the material we looked at for this deep dive.
Exactly. And what's really interesting, I think, is that keeping a conversation moving isn't some, magical talent you either have or you don't.
Right. It's not just innate.
No, it's actually a skill. You can learn it. It's built on specific techniques, ones you can actually practice.
And that's precisely what we want to unpack today. The material lays out four really powerful techniques, things designed to help you navigate those tricky spots.
And keep things flowing more naturally.
Yeah, regardless of your level. So these are asking great follow-up questions,
Uh-huh.
reacting naturally, showing you're actually engaged,
Okay.
using active listening, and the fourth one, smoothly changing topics when you need to.
Right. And think of these less strict rules and more tools you can have ready.
Tools in your conversational toolbox. I like
Yeah.
that.
And getting good with them, it can genuinely shift conversations, make them feel less like a performance or, a test.
And more just,
Yeah.
easier, more enjoyable.
Exactly. So we're going to walk through each one. We've got some really clear examples from the source material that show just what a difference these can make.
Okay, sounds great. Let's dive in then. First up, and maybe the most basic one, asking great follow-up questions.
Yeah, fundamental, really. The material was clear. If you don't ask questions, the conversation basically stops.
It just dies.
It does. It's like, think about playing ping pong. Someone serves the ball to you. That's them saying something.
Okay.
Now, if you just catch the ball and, hold on to it.
Game over.
Game over. Right. The game stops.
And just giving a really short answer, that's like holding on to the ball, offering nothing back.
Exactly. And the material pointed out that's a super common mistake people make.
We can see that. It's easy to do.
It really is. Let's take a scenario, one that happens all the time. Someone asks you, what do you do for work?
Okay.
And you just reply, I'm a teacher.
Full stop. End of story.
Yeah. And then silence. Awkwardness descends.
Right. Because you answered technically, but you didn't. You didn't hit the ball back, like you said.
Precisely. You gave the other person absolutely nothing to respond to, nothing to build on.
So now they have to do all the work, right? They have to think up a totally new question.
Yeah, the conversational burden just shifts entirely onto them. It's tough.
So based on what we saw, how do you fix that? How do you hit the ball back and keep that ping pong game going?
Well, it's about adding just a little bit more information, just a touch. And this is key, asking a question back yourself.
Okay.
So look at this other version of the same exchange from the material. A asks, what do you do for work?
Same question.
Same question, but B replies, I'm a teacher, I teach high school math. It's challenging but fun. What about you?
Oh, yeah. That feels completely different, even just hearing it. That
Yeah.
second answer, it's way more inviting. It's not just, I'm a teacher. You get context high school math and a little bit of feeling challenging but fun.
Exactly. B didn't just state a fact, they opened up possibilities. Now, A could ask about teaching math or about the challenges or what's fun about it.
Loads more options.
And then, crucially, B asks, what about you? That sends the ball firmly back over the net.
Returns the serve.
Perfectly put. The material really hammered this home. Try to avoid those really short, dead-end answers. Always aim to add one little extra detail, maybe a thought or feeling.
And then ask something back if you can.
Yeah. It sounds simple, but it completely changes the dynamic. It turns that potential dead end into, a pathway for more chat.
That's a really practical first tool. Okay, technique number 2, reacting naturally to show interest.
Yes. Because even if you ask questions back, if your reaction to what they say is just flat.
Yeah, it can still feel really hard work, like you're pulling teeth.
Totally. If someone shares something, maybe something they're excited about, and you just kind of stare blankly.
Or just give a minimal, oh.
Right, they might think you're not interested, or maybe you didn't even really hear them or understand them.
Yeah, it kills the vibe.
It does. We saw this example of a poor reaction in the material. A says, I just got back from a trip to Japan.
Cool.
But B just responds, huh.
Oof. Yeah, it just sort of hangs there in the air, doesn't it? Even if B is thinking, wow, Japan, amazing. It doesn't sound like it.
Not one bit. It gives A zero energy to continue sharing. Now contrast that with the more natural, engaged reaction they showed.
Okay.
A says, I just got back from a trip to Japan. And B replies, wow, that's awesome. How was it? What did you do there?
See, instantly different. The energy shifts completely.
Right.
B's enthusiasm comes through. Wow, that's awesome. And then it's straight into questions that show genuine interest. How was it? What did you do?
Exactly. It feels like B is actually part of the conversation, not just receiving information passively.
They're leaning in, basically.
Yeah, showing they're actively engaged, they're curious. And the material listed some great, simple little phrases you can use for this.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Things like, that's amazing, or, oh, wow, really? Or, no way, tell me more. Even something like, oh, I'd love to do that someday.
Those are easy enough to remember.
Super easy, and they act like conversational fuel. They encourage the other person to keep talking because they feel like you're actually listening and you value what they're saying.
Little phrases, but they make a big difference in keeping it lively and connected.
Absolutely.
All right, technique number 3 then, using active listening. This feels related, but it's more about how you respond to the content,
Right.
not just waiting for your turn to jump in.
That's it exactly. It's about genuinely paying attention and making your response connect directly to what the other person just said.
Instead of, well, thinking about lunch while they're pouring their heart out.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like the slightly funny example, the material used for bad listening.
What was that one?
A says, I had a really tough day at work.
Okay, standard enough start.
And B responds, oh, I love pizza.
Wait, what? Pizza, where did that come from?
Slight chuckle. Right. You can almost feel A thinking, huh? B completely ignored the tough day part.
Just jump tracks completely.
Yeah, blurted out something totally unrelated. It shows they weren't really listening to A. They were just off in their own world.
And it just shuts A down immediately. It feels like you're talking at them, not with them.
Completely. So what does good active listening look like in that same situation?
How do you respond well?
Well, you respond directly to what A actually said. You acknowledge their feeling, and you invite them to say more. The material gave this example.
Okay.
A, I had a really tough day at work. B, oh no, what happened? Was it super busy today?
Oh, okay. Much, much better. B shows empathy straight away. Oh no.
Yeah.
Asks a relevant question, what happened? And even offers a possible reason connected to work. Was it super busy?
Exactly. B is responding to A's reality, acknowledging the tough day. They're building on A's statement, not just pivoting away from it.
And that must feel so different for A. You feel heard, right? Validated.
Absolutely. It encourages you to share more. And this brings up a really good point. Think about how much better conversations feel, how much more comfortable and natural when you sense the other person is genuinely listening.
Yeah, when they're actually responding to you.
Right, not just waiting for a gap to talk about pizza or whatever's on their mind. Practicing this kind of active listening, like in that good example, makes the whole exchange feel more collaborative, more meaningful, really.
It definitely builds more connection. Okay, that brings us to the final technique from the material. Smoothly changing the topic.
Ah, yes, the gear shift.
Because sometimes you need to, right? A topic might just run out of steam, or maybe you don't know much about it.
Or you just sense it's time to move on for whatever reason.
But if you don't handle that transition well, awkward city again.
You can land right back in that silence, or worse, make the other person feel like you're totally bored with what they were just saying.
Yeah, cutting them off abruptly.
Exactly. The material had this example of a clumsy topic change. A says, so I went to the beach last weekend.
Sounds nice.
B just replies, oh, I like hamburgers.
Slight pause. Hamburgers. Again with the randomness. Beach.
Yeah.
Hamburgers. There's just no link.
None whatsoever. It's jarring. There's no conversational bridge between the two ideas. It feels totally random and makes the whole thing stumble.
So how do you build that bridge? What did the material show for a smooth transition?
Okay, same starting point. A says, so I went to the beach last weekend.
Right.
Now B responds, that sounds fun. Speaking of the weekend, do you have any plans for this one?
Ah, okay, I see it. First, B acknowledges A's point. That sounds fun.
Bringing back technique, too, reacting naturally.
Exactly. And then they use that little phrase, speaking of the weekend.
Yeah, that's the bridge.
It connects the old topic, which was last weekend, to the new topic, this weekend. It makes sense.
It does. That phrase or similar ones like, speaking of that, or that reminds me. Or even just a simple, by the way, they act as signal.
Gentle warnings, almost. Like, okay, changing direction slightly here.
Exactly. You're signposting the shift, but you're trying to find a link, even if it's a small one, to what was just being discussed.
Yeah.
Keeps it from feeling like a hard left turn.
The material also mentioned slightly longer ways to do it, didn't it?
Yeah, structures like. Since we're talking about travel, have you ever been to Spain? So you explicitly mentioned the current theme travel before introducing your related but new point.
It's really interesting how those little phrases just smooth things over. They prevent that conversational whiplash.
They really do. They help you avoid those awkward stops and keep the flow feeling natural, even when you are actually changing the subject.
Okay, great. So maybe a quick recap of those 4 techniques we pulled from the material.
Sounds good. So first, asking great follow-up questions. Remember the ping pong analogy, always hit the ball back.
Right. Add detail, ask a question. Technique 2.
Reacting naturally. Show you're engaged with more than just, oh, use those little phrases. Wow, really, that's amazing.
Got it. 3rd was active listening.
Yeah, truly responding to what the other person says, acknowledging it, building on it. Not just waiting for your turn or thinking about something else.
Connect your response to their statement.
Exactly. And finally, number 4, changing topics smoothly. Using those transition phrases, speaking of, that reminds me, by the way, to build bridges.
Fantastic. And the core message we got from the material is pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah. Practice these things. Actively try them out. It will make your conversations feel easier over time, more natural, and honestly, a lot more fun.
Takes the pressure off a bit.
It really can. And to help you actually do that, the material included a little challenge, a practical task.
Right, something you can try today or tomorrow. Step 1 is just find someone to talk to.
Yep. Could be anyone, friend, partner, colleague at work, family member.
Or even just practice talking to yourself, thinking through a conversation.
Sure, that works too. Step 2. During that conversation, make a conscious effort to use at least one of each technique.
So try to ask at least one good follow-up question.
Use at least one natural reaction phrase.
And, if it comes up naturally, try one smooth topic change using one of those bridge phrases.
Yeah. And don't worry about getting it perfect. The goal is just to try it out, to practice.
Okay. And then step 3, which the material suggested is maybe the most crucial bit for actually learning.
Reflection. Yeah. Afterwards, just take a moment. Think about how it went.
Ask yourself things like, did the conversation seem to flow a bit better? Which technique felt, I don't know, easiest or most useful for me in that specific chat?
And maybe, what's one tiny thing I could focus on improving next time?
That reflection part, that's where you really connect the dots, isn't it? Between the idea and the actual doing.
Absolutely. That's where the learning sticks.
And the material also prompted thinking about what parts of keeping conversations going you personally find the trickiest, which is useful self-awareness to have as you practice more.
Definitely. Now, thinking beyond these core skills, once you start feeling a bit more comfortable keeping the basic flow going.
Where do you go next?
Well, the material pointed towards mastering small talk as the next logical step, especially perhaps if you're navigating English-speaking cultures.
Yes. Small talk. The thing lots of people dread, but it's kind of unavoidable sometimes.
It really is essential in so many situations, isn't it? Like the material mentioned at work, networking events, parties, even just meeting neighbors or new people.
You need to be able to handle those initial lighter chats.
Exactly. Being comfortable with small talk is often the gateway to deeper connections.
And the good news is, material previews that the next time we dive into this whole area, we'll be tackling small talk head on.
Yeah, looking at things like, how do you actually start a conversation with pretty much anyone? What are good topics to bring up?
And maybe just as importantly, what topics are probably best to steer clear of.
Chuckles. Yes, definitely important. And also practical tips for how to sound friendly, approachable, and confident, even if you're feeling a bit nervous inside.
That sounds like the perfect follow-up to what we've covered today. Building block by building block.
Exactly. It's all part of the journey towards feeling more comfortable and capable in your English conversations.
Well, hopefully this deep dive today has armed you with some really concrete, actionable tools you can start using right away to keep those conversations flowing more naturally.
Yeah, and just remember that key takeaway from the material. Good conversations aren't usually accidents. They don't just happen by luck.
They're built.
They're built with awareness, with practice, and with these kinds of techniques. You've got the tools now.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over from this deep dive.
Huh.
In the next day or so, what's one specific opportunity, could be tiny, that you'll look for?
Maybe just a quick chat with a barista, calling a friend, saying hi to someone new.
Yeah, any little moment. What opportunity will you find to consciously try just one of these techniques? A follow-up question, a natural reaction, active listening, a smooth transition, and just notice. See what difference it makes for you.
Even one small, successful attempt can really boost your confidence for the next time.
That's a fantastic point. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, keep practicing those techniques. Enjoy those smoother, more connected conversations.